High Representative from UNESCO, distinguished delegates, and friends. It gives me great pleasure to be here with you all. And when I look back at the conference, the meeting functions I've attended in the last 24 hours, remarkable that all are connected to information and knowledge. Yesterday, I was at the Colombo Declaration on media freedom. Media freedom and freedom of expression is the cornerstone of democracy as well as the information age. Today morning, before coming here, I attended the book fair, which is the source of knowledge for the third revolution. And now I come here to open access. It shows history, where we are going. The fourth industrial revolution is based on disruption. So was the industrial revolution, the third one. But that disruption took place over 1.5 centuries or longer, from the time the steam engine was invented, early 18th century, till about 1950. So that's right, about 150 years before the disruptions took place. Today, disruptions, as a result of the digital technology, the disruptions are taking place virtually annually. Markets have changed. Supermarkets are closing down, which includes one of the favorite bookshops I used to go to when I was abroad, Barnes and Nobles. Online retailing is coming in. In every sphere, you could see the differences. Only a few days back, you saw Concourse taking over Skype, another revolution. This is the world in the future. So open access then is a key to success. Without knowledge, without access, this is why I am happy that you all are today subscribing to a declaration similar to the Delhi Declaration shaded in India. Knowledge is the key, because fourth industrial revolution is based on knowledge and the knowledge technology. How do we in Sri Lanka acquire it? Long ago, during the time of the agricultural revolution, when we were exporters of rice, of grain, the monasteries of Sri Lanka contain the highest forms of knowledge, not merely on Buddhism, but virtually on all other aspects, which had a high degree of medical learning and engineering sciences, which produce Sigiriya, the large dargabbers, and a very specialized irrigation service. So now we have to look at the future. Where does Sri Lanka's future lie? We are a small country located in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Our markets are limited. We have to look at what are the skills that we can utilize and build on. We have no other natural skills. If you identify them, you come up with manufacturing, niche market manufacturing, and joining a part of the global value chain. That is one. Secondly is our destination or tourism. Thirdly is logistics. We are in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And what is it fourth? Fourth is the knowledge industry. The total knowledge industry is where our future will lie. So the result, the government is committed to promoting the knowledge industry, and as a result of promoting the knowledge industry, we have to make that commitment to open access, where information is available, and which will also change the total learning structure, especially at the high end of the education system. In doing so, there are many initiatives that we have taken. The ministers, the relevant ministers have already discussed the digital economy strategy, and it will be approved by cabinet. I hope it will be approved by cabinet next week, if not so the week after. So we have the digital economy strategy. Secondly, we are now studying the logistics center and also the possibility of starting an offshore financial center. The legislation is being discussed. That again is a basis for the knowledge industry. It changes the way in which we do business, and we become a business center, not merely a manufacturing center. So knowledge is the key to it. Thirdly, I'll be meeting with Slascom after I return from Norway to discuss the special tax incentives that will be made available to the industry in next year. So you can start now, and the legislation and the incentives will come into place next year. You need startup time. And finally, digitalizing the total government process. The minister here showed us some of the major achievements of the government, but there are some that are slow. So it will be necessary to bring a digitalization law in which even government sector will be given timelines to bring in their IT systems into place, especially some of the issues being face-to-face, the reduction of face meetings, which seems to be resisted in some quarters. Nevertheless, through a law, we could achieve that and take us forward in our endeavors to become a knowledge industry. There are many speakers here, and I certainly don't want to take too much of your time. I am not the specialist, but to say that Sri Lanka has made its commitment and the journey has begun, and I wish you successful deliberations. Thank you.
Of every year as International Day of Universal Access for Information. IDUAI has particular relevance with the new 2030 Global Development Agenda, and in particular with the Sustainable Development Goal target, which calls for ensuring public access to information and protection on fundamental freedoms. In the time Sri Lanka is accelerating in adoption and digital roadmap towards creating a knowledge-based society, it is a great honor and privilege for Sri Lanka to host a celebration of International Day of Universal Access to Information, recognized by the United Nations of Education, scientific and cultural organizations. My ministry, together with the Ministry of Education, UNESCO Secretariat, and the local international partners, made UNESCO flagship event a reality today. The theme adopted for the two-day event, the Asian Digital Revolution, transforming the digital divide into the dividend through universal access, is highly appropriate when considering our region's rapid advancement into digitalization over the several years. The exponential developments in the digital technologies related to applications have revolutionized the way we think, speak, act, and transact. Investments on digitalization help closing various types of gaps between and among individuals, social groups, and geographical blocks. It's indeed commonly admitted that norms, disciplines, policies, regulations, as well as laws are required at various levels and contexts to optimize the benefits of digitalization. The policy and the strategy role of my ministry, the Ministry of Telecommunication, Digital Infrastructure and Foreign Employment, is multi-phase and facilitating these requirements. Stepping into a middle-income status country, Sri Lanka is faced with many internal and external challenges. However, we could overcome many of them by prudent policies and strategies that led towards creating a knowledge-based society. Whereas the economy is concerned, digitalization of elements of economy led to build a new innovative partnerships between and among market forces. Heavy investments on human and physical infrastructure in the model public investments and other partnerships have helped realization of Millennium Development Goals, and we will be also realizing Sustainable Development Goals and strategic partnership with UNESCO and the rest of the United Nations systems. We have many bilateral and multilateral partnerships for making ICT affordable and available to all segments of society. By 2020, more than 5 billion people will have access to mobile phones, and more than 4 billion people will have high-speed internet, and well over half of the world's population. Almost 3 billion people are expected to become regular users of social media and the most frequent users of the internet in the developing world. In Sri Lanka alone, mobile penetration has risen to 96% in 2012 to 126% in 2018. The last 3 years in particular, we have seen a very strong growth. Also, Sri Lanka has seen a very steady increase in mobile broadband penetration over the last 5 years, and penetration increasing from 8% in 2012 to 21% by 2018. Currently, the cost of broadband connectivity in Sri Lanka is one of the lowest when comparing to the rest of the world. I'm sure the delegates who are here, when you're using your roaming, you would have found that Sri Lanka internet speeds are quite fast and quite good and quite cheap as well. The present government 2025 vision has clearly identified the importance of creating the digital empowered citizens. Our ministry is fully dedicated to ensure that the vision is realized and create a clear conscience and a roadmap towards achieving the goal. I'm happy to say that many initiatives have been fast-tracked at the ICT development of the country. While going back with the ICT video we showed you, I was quite excited and the challenges that we face, but the corporate sector in Sri Lanka have done a fantastic job. Looking at the companies that are available in Sri Lanka, London Stock Exchange, Emirates Software being done in Sri Lanka, British Telecom's back office being in Sri Lanka, and also the driverless cars image mapping entirely done in Sri Lanka. It makes me very proud that the Sri Lankan IT sector is booming and will start to begin and flourish in the next few years. Currently, we only have 90,000 IT workers, but our biggest vision will be to make sure in the next 3 to 5 years that we will have more than 350,000 to 500,000 employees on the IT sector adopting and moving on that direction. We have a fantastic education minister who have been supporting us to do digital education in schools. We've been starting digital classrooms in schools. We're trying to start coding in schools. So there's lots of initiatives with a lot of international partners, and that has started in Sri Lanka. Just like the Prime Minister said, we are in a fantastic geographical location, and we sit pretty in front of our neighbors. We call our big brothers India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, which have the biggest population. So Sri Lanka is sitting pretty in a beautiful location to do business. And if we do go on the right direction with our digital initiatives, I think we will be the market that will be the best for everybody to come and invest. So therefore, I do not want to make my speech long. One challenge that we face being in a government or being in a minister and being one of the youngest ministers in the cabinet, adoption into digital era is one of the biggest challenges I face. So today at this conference, when discussing about government issues or government adoption, that might be something that you all would want to pay attention. Certain ministries, interdependencies, certain ministries wanting to adapt or wanting to do their own projects might be certain problems, or how they move forward as a country, as a single. I probably think my Prime Minister did understand it. That's why he said he needs to pass a law, and digitalization has to be priority. So I hope these are things that can be discussed at the two-day conference. And I want to thank the entire staff who was behind this, UNESCO Secretary General, who's representing Sri Lanka office, my ministry staff, who did a fantastic job, who were working relentlessly the last couple of weeks to get this going. And today evening there's going to be a fantastic gala event and a dinner, some cocktails. They've organized a fantastic event, and I want to thank the main sponsors, SLT, Mobitel, coming on board. Super events lined up. Sri Lanka is a beautiful paradise. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. And next time when you come in, Sri Lanka will be digitally much more empowered, and that's what I would like to say. And have a good stay, and hope this conference is going to have a best outcome in the next few years to come. Thank you very much, and have a lovely stay in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Aiboan, welcome. My colleague, Honorable Harin Fernando, Minister of Telecommunication and Digital Infrastructure and Foreign Employment, Honorable Ministers of Education and distinguished representatives from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal and Pakistan, Honorable Ministers, Secretaries to the Ministries of Education, Telecommunication and Digital Affairs, Sri Lanka, Mr. Eric Folt, Director, UNESCO, Representative to Bhutan, India, Maldives and Sri Lanka, Dr. Indradij Banerjee, Director, and Dr. Banu Nupen, UNESCO Paris Headquarters, and other experts and participants from UNESCO, New Delhi. Distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege and honor to address you on this occasion to discuss many issues related to the 21st century knowledge society we live in today. As a Minister of Education, Sri Lanka, at the outset I would like to express my sincere thanks to UNESCO for providing Sri Lanka of the honor of co-hosting the celebration of the 2018 International Day for Universal Access to Information, and also the opportunity to hold this high-level international conference on the timely theme of transforming the digital divide into a dividend through universal access, with the participation of the subject ministers from countries in the South Asian region and international experts on a subject that is deemed most important today. This is also a subject that the government of Sri Lanka is focusing on, having well understood its importance in a 21st century knowledge society. Today, the use of apps have become the order of society, and the digital technologies occupy a pride of place. Therefore, a lack of access to digital technologies means creation of a huge digital divide, which in turn increases the gaps and disparities between the haves and the have-nots. However, the digital technology equipment in its various forms, such as tabs, apps, smartphones, and laptops, can help a great deal in transforming the digital divide into a dividend through providing universal access to knowledge to all its users. As mentioned in many fora, major transformations in the world have taken place through the use of apps and digital technologies. Uber, Airbnb, and Paytm are but a few examples. Very soon, there will be driverless cars and robots performing the task of humans. Whilst there will be loss of jobs due to digital technologies on one hand, job creations can also happen through innovative ways of finding solutions to the various issues visiting societies, such as disaster management, provision of food security, medical services, waste management and product development by the use of digital technologies. The use of big data and internet for collection, correlation and analysis to find solutions through artificial intelligence will be the order of the day. As the Ministry of Education, it is our duty to prepare for new generation to face up to these 21st century changes and revolutions. Many of our higher education institutes are now gearing up for providing education for innovation, and it's vital for the general system of education to prepare the students for innovations right through its value chains. Although Sri Lanka can boast of a literacy rate of over 94%, the access to quality education for all is still a challenge to overcome. We have an IT literacy rate of over 40% at present in our school systems, and our aim is to leapfrog to 100% IT literacy rate through the offering of tabs for all school children in the very near future, given that power and connectivity have been made available to more than 90% of the geographical areas in the country. The government of Sri Lanka is also working towards providing Wi-Fi connectivity right throughout the country. We have also made schooling free and compulsory for 13 years, thus allowing more time for students to have a wider choice of subjects to learn from and to choose from technical and vocational education subjects which have been introduced to enter higher studies and also prepare for the world of work. Furthermore, introduction of smart classrooms in selected schools in the country and concept of developing the schools under the theme nearest school is the best school have now been commenced. We expect these initiatives will help to address the difficulties in availability in sufficient numbers of qualified teachers in less enabled areas, particularly in the core subjects such as science, technology, engineering and maths, the non-availability in which are causing disparities in quality of learning. I believe many of our South Asian countries are also faced with similar issues, particularly with regarding to the outreach in providing quality education for all. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, hope I have shared with you briefly the basic approaches and our strategies to meet with the challenges of a fast digitalizing world. We are pleased to be a part of this important international conference and we shall look forward to the Colombo Declaration that will be the outcome of this meeting concerning the way forward towards bridging the digital divide. I wish you all the good luck in your deliberations and a wonderful stay in sunny Sri Lanka in the proximity of the sea breeze of Mount Lavinia. Enjoy and have fun whilst you work towards bridging the digital divide. Thank you.
Ministers, Honorable Deputy Ministers, UNESCO dignitaries from Paris and India, and the secretaries to the ministries and the senior officials from the government, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I do not really take much of your time for the vote of thanks since the time is very fast running. First of all, I should be thankful to the Honorable Prime Minister, even though the Prime Minister has a very busy schedule today since we are celebrating in Colombo the second anniversary of RTI Act passed in 2016. So being the politically visionary leader in South Asian countries, our respected Prime Minister, despite his busy schedule, Honorable Prime Minister accepted our invitation at the very beginning and been with us at this very important moment, and we shall be thankful to the Honorable Prime Minister on behalf of my Minister, Honorable Yavsam. Secondly, we shall be thankful to the UNESCO dignitaries visited from Paris, India and other 7 countries in the region, Asia region, for this important event. Basically, special thanks to the UNESCO Paris office for having really identified and selected Sri Lanka as the best venue to commemorate this international event in Sri Lanka, Colombo. So thank you so much, Dr. Indradej Banerjee, Mr. Eric Falt, and Dr. Banerjee for all the senior members from the UNESCO. I do not take much of your time. As I mentioned earlier, the secretaries to the both ministries, especially Mr. Cholananda Pereira and also Mr. Sunil Hettiarachchi, along with their additional secretaries, Mr. Rodrigo, Mr. Varun Dhanapala, and from our end, all the staff of the UNESCO office, in my office, they really worked very hard for the last, I think, 1 month. So must be thankful to especially Mr. Cholananda Pereira and also Mr. Sunil Hettiarachchi for their really dedication for this event to be a success one. And the ladies and gentlemen, those who are present here today, despite your busy schedule, all the secretaries of the ministries and all the senior members here, senior members in the government, I think you will be here for today and tomorrow for this active partnership, for this very, very important, really, the important discussions. And finally, as Honorable Minister and Prime Minister mentioned, that the final outcome is the Colombo Declaration. It is being really drafted right now. Finally, not really lastly, we have to appreciate the High Commission, Sri Lankan High Commission in France, all the way. Your Excellency, you are also participating here. And also the Colombo Mayor in Colombo, Greater Colombo, and all the other senior members, those who really work at the UNESCO office, those who are really giving very strong support to me for this, in the organization of this event here. Then I cannot really forget about the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Additional Secretary who really was supporting us and appointed as the ambassador in South Africa. Apart from that, all the directors there, Mr. Pochita, Medhavi and other staff, including the protocol, they really supported in a big way. So I think time is running fast. Finally, I shall be thankful to the hotel management of this hotel, Mount Lavinia, and I think I know your courtesy for our visiting delegates from Paris and also India and other 7 countries. And in the organization of this event, in a great way, grand way, we shall be thankful to the hotel management here. Thank you so much, and wish you have a pleasant stay and nice day here.
Honorable Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, Honorable Minister Harin Fernando, Minister of Telecommunication, Digital Infrastructure and Foreign Employment, Government of Sri Lanka, and Honorable Akila Viraj Kariyawasam, Minister of Education of Sri Lanka and Chairman of Sri Lankan National Commission for UNESCO, Mr. Premalal Ratnavira, Secretary General of Sri Lanka National Commission for UNESCO. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. I think my colleague, Mr. Eric Falt, has said most of what I wanted to say. So I promise the comparers here that I won't take more than 3 minutes of your time, and I will stick to my time. It's really great.
Haven't even heard of, but we use it. The question we have is how wide a coverage do we have of 3G and 4G networks in this country? I don't think we have adequate coverage. It's like I used to drive through this country in 1998 as the telecom revolution was rolling out. And at those days, we were not talking 3G, we were just dealing with with the 900 megahertz band, GSM, amps, and things of that nature. And I could go 200 meters from a main road and I would lose signal. Today, with regard to 3G and 4G, we have that situation in some parts of the country, not around here, not along the coast. But these are things we need to work on. As I said, we have achieved much, but we have much to achieve. We are thinking about what kind of information is available. And from the government side, we are thinking about what kind of information we can make available. Just yesterday, I had my team out at Sigiriya, which you may have heard of, is a cultural heritage site, a thing that belongs to all humanity. And we had just launched a mobile app that tourists can use to gain quality information. Because some of the guides don't necessarily give quality information. Quality information over their app in multiple languages. Just rolled out. I haven't tested it myself, but I think it's a good beginning. Just today, I was looking at what we can do with this technology. I have been asked to comment on what our Bribery and Corruption Commission is considering in terms of asset declaration. And they're saying we can't do this without the new technology. We want to change the law, we want to make it easy for people to use it, we want to make this information or a subset of this information available to all? Can you help us? These are the kinds of challenges that we are dealing with. We are very proud. I think one of the greatest achievements of this government has been the enactment of the Right to Information Law. For 20 years we've been trying to get it, and we finally got it. Now the question is, can we use it properly? Can we use its full potential without the internet, without the availability of the internet as a platform for proactive disclosure, as a platform for cutting down the transaction costs? As having run a government organization, I know one of the greatest difficulties is finding information inside a government organization. So there's much to be done in terms of deploying technology so that these things can be retrieved at low transaction costs. So I won't spend any more time from my side talking about setting the stage for this discussion. I would invite each of the panelists to take 5 minutes to...
But I don't think we've even provided accessibility, universal accessibility. We don't have sign language. We don't have ramp over here. So when we talk about access to information, we have to also think about where does technology fit in. Technology is a wonderful thing. It can provide education to those persons with very limited resources, particularly persons with disability. Technology can help us develop means to teach persons who cannot learn in typical manner, gaining basic knowledge, teaching strategies. Those things exist. But as much as we focus on technology, especially in the Southeast Asia region, we have not thought about how somebody with learning difficulties can learn using technology. So I want to kind of also give a very brief summary. I know the session has had a lot of talk about things that have been developed in Sri Lanka. Bangladesh has extremely good education policy that is inclusive and that has specifically mentions the use of technology, particularly in the classrooms for teachers. However, when it comes to actually utilizing that policy and developing tools for persons with disabilities, that has not happened. We have been able to focus on providing the infrastructure, technologies accessible to every village. So one of our marginalized groups, women, have made a lot of strides in being able to access technologies, particularly using to gain information on child development, on maternal care, on even banking. So that has made a big economic progress for them. However, where is the use of this technology for persons with disabilities? We have not been able to do it in this region. And I wonder why that is. You know, I think part of it is, as you can see from the audience, there is not a single person with a disability here. When technology is supposed to help all of us gain more knowledge, become more productive, then why is it that there are fewer persons with disabilities utilizing it, benefiting from it? So I did have a little bit of a presentation. I know, however, time is short. I think what I will do instead is go through, answer any questions if people have anything to ask. But one of the things that I would like to emphasize is even in the disability area, one of the least developed, as far as technology is concerned, is the autism spectrum group, neurodevelopmental disorders. I also serve on the jury board for ICT award for UNESCO, and whenever we've had a lot of these tools that have been developed using technology that is useful for persons with disabilities, I realized there was only one school that had used some technology, but there was no resources that had been developed using technology for persons.
The liberal economy carried out various reforms and removed obstacles of development from an infant economy to vibrant economy. As a result, economic development began to take shape despite various barriers and poverty level. People did not hold ownership of democracy and fruit of development remained limited. Thus, the Second People's Movement 2006 brought about radical changes in the governance and state structures. After the advent of full-fledged democracy in 2006, the citizen forums, CSOs, journalists, associations, media and academicians demanded and launched movement for the enactment of the Right to Information Act so that citizens have easy and simple access to public authorities' information, and the records and information held in public authorities must be disclosed regularly. The interim constitution of 2006 provided right to information as a fundamental right, and Right to Information Act was introduced in 2007. The independent oversight body named National Information Commission has been constituted in 2008. The Constitution of Nepal promulgated in 2015 has also the same provision as in the interim constitution as a fundamental right to Nepali citizen. It has mentioned every citizen shall have the right to demand and receive information on any matters of his or her interest of public interest. Now I would like to put some facts before this August gathering on the status of ITI in Nepal. To implement the constitutional provision of right to information, ITI Nepal has enacted Right to Information Act in 2007. As per this act, an independent National Information Commission has been constituted in May 2008 for the first time. The main functions and duties of National Information Commission NIC are to protect, to promote and enforce right to information in Nepal. The Right to Information Act has provided every citizen has right to information within the provision of this act, and every citizen has access to information held in the public bodies. The act also provides each and every public body shall appoint an information officer, open a separate information section in each public bodies, and information officer shall have access to information of that public bodies. Each and every public body should proactively disclose the information in every 3 months. Distinguished delegates, please allow me in highlighting some of the activities of NIC in Nepal. We in the National Information Commission have taken numbers of promotional activities, which is one of the responsibilities of the Commission besides protection and enforcement, to make people aware, educated and trained through various means. We have called them as a special campaign to make citizens able to use ITI to bring openness, transparency, accountability and responsiveness in the state functions for the good governance and to protect and let thrive of democracy. We believe that for democracy to sustain, thrive and mature, ITI is one of the fundamental tools in the hands of the people, where participation and ownership from the citizen is also ensured, and citizens themselves will take the mantle of protection when we are able to educate them. We conducted special focused campaign interaction programs to the elected mayors, deputy mayors, chairmen, vice chairmen and chief administrative officers of municipality, metropolitan city and village level government to create awareness and implement ITI in their jurisdictions in all 7 provinces. As after the state restructuring, most of the public delivery of goods and services functions have to be performed by these public authorities, as they should also be required to be educated in RTI. Conducted special focused campaign training of trainers, TOT, for journalists in the 7 provinces to be a resource person to educate and implement RTI, because they are also the vehicle of mass communication. The citizen will benefit from the informed media. NIC issued an order to all public authorities, including political parties, federal, provincial, and local level government offices, NGOs, INGOs, CSOs, banks, public enterprises, insurance companies, etc. to appoint information officers, proactively disclosure information in every 3 months and report to NIC on the information provided and denial in every 3 months. Introduced curriculum for higher secondary school on
begin to present about the journey that we have taken. I think it is only appropriate that I introduce where Bhutan is located. Bhutan is a landlocked country located between the two giants, economic giants, India and China, with a population of 735,333 people as per the population housing census of 2017. Right to information is one of the fundamental rights of the citizen of Bhutan as per Article 7 and Section 3. Based on this, we have been working very hard, and then we have come out with a vision. Our vision is an ICT-enabled knowledge society as a foundation for gross national happiness. I am very pleased that the UNESCO's vision and our vision really matches. That means I think whatever Bhutan is doing is as per the international standards. Basically, our objective is to create a society which learns to learn. So this is what we have been doing. And for your information, internet came to Bhutan, internet and television came to Bhutan only in 1999. Then I was a young officer, we were really concerned what internet is all about and how we will benefit. And today I stand here as one of the advocates of disruption in the country that the technology would bring about. When we were working on this, how to make citizen services accessible to citizens, we found out that accessibility was one of the key challenges that we face, that our government faced. Bhutan is a mountainous country with deep gorges, rivers, streams running. So it was very difficult for our country to string out 3,200 kilometers of fibers across the mountains, across the rivers and gorges. And these fibers are all owned by the government, and we provide one pair of fibers, 3 to the ISPs, so that the cost of accessibility is subsidized. And besides that, we have so many towers, mobile towers, internet towers running across the country, and these are all provided free. And at times, we have only 1 or 2 households accessing service from their tower. So that means the cost of connectivity is highly subsidized in our country. And to do this, when we studied this and we found out that accessing citizen services by the citizens, government services by the citizens was a challenge. So that's why we automated 151 G2C services, and these are now accessible to the citizens within a day's walk through the community centers. We have 205 blocks. Out of that, 201 are strung with fibers, and 3 we are providing services through the satellite, and 1 we are providing services through the radio link. So it has been a challenge for Bhutan to connect to these people, but now we have connected these areas. Now I think we are having our election right now, and then we have found out it's very heartening that all the parties have prioritized providing of free Wi-Fi to the citizens in the rural areas. So that means I think we can really move forward in the next few years. When we were building this infrastructure, we only realized that we have not progressed much in terms of content. So that's why in the 12th five-year plan, we have this digital Bhutan, which encompasses the content development, accessibility, and transformational initiatives. We have our own e-education program, which will make accessibility to the students much easier. And we have other similar programs. We have a digital literacy program where we intend to educate or make at least enable the citizen to use the online services, online information. And we have many initiatives that are being undertaken. And we have, for instance, in the 10th five-year plan, we had a very ambitious Chief in the Rickville program through which we trained more than 30,000 people. And similarly, we intend to continue this, and we hope that we will be able to, make citizen information accessible to citizens within a second. And then for this information sharing, we found out that it is very critical to have a single platform where the data are openly shared and interoperability does happen. So that's why we have we are creating data hubs, and through this we really want to share the information. As of now, we don't have Right to Information Act, but this is something that is being discussed, and we hope that the parliamentarians will work on this. And with this, any questions that you have, I will take out. Let's see.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Namgyal.
As you all know, Maldives is a very small country. We have got only 400,000 people living there, and it's a geographically dispersed country. So, and also we are far behind compared to other countries in the region in the concept of open resources. Actually, we have got only one school where students can go. The blind students and vision, hearing impaired students. There's only one school where they teach these students. So, and also in 2011 we have started to build a repository, a digital repository which is initiated by the Maldives Library Association, and also we formed a network with Nepal, Bangladesh, and in some other countries. And now, last month only, we were able to inaugurate another digital repository, which is Saruna, and it is managed by the Maldives National University. And also another digital repository was inaugurated by Divai Academy. So these are the only 3 repositories we have got in our country. And also Saruna also we have got only 6,000 digital journal articles and books. So we are in the stage of developing these repositories. And also in most of the islands where these islands are very remotely accessed, therefore we are in need of such a platform where we can share information. And also, I thank UNESCO and Sri Lanka for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
And the government of Sri Lanka to invite me. I'm honored to be here. I started to work in IT industry end of the 80s, over 30 years ago. And at the time, everybody in that industry, we were optimistic and we were naive. We would share passwords over the phone, and we would just hand out information to anybody and everybody. But we saw, and somebody already mentioned, in this 4th industrial revolution, which is taking place, that we're shifting from this command and control to what I call a connect and collaborate society. Basically, the technologies allowed us to connect around the world. Now that's good, and that provides us with the ability to seek the information we need. But how do we trust this information? How do we know that the information, the data is correct? How do we know it's complete? How do we know it's compelling? And also, how do we know that the algorithms which manipulates that data, how they are designed? And in a lot of cases, we don't know that. That raises a very important question, and that is how to deal with accountability. Because someone needs to be accountable for that data if it turns out that it's not correct, complete, and we cannot trust that. So raising the question on accountability in the digital age led a number of people to take the initiative to set up in The Hague, in collaboration with the Dutch government, UNESCO and the ITU, to set up the very first summit for accountability in the digital age. Because we realized that in the day of the internet, resolving this issue crosses borders. This geography does not stop, so we need to rethink this. And we have launched a very first debate in a multi-stakeholder platform and initiated the very first draft of what we call the Hague Principles for accountability in a digital age. And these The Hague Principles are based on an internet of values, where we follow the law and we try to aim for the strategic sustainability development goals. That we aim for accountability by default. That we realize that everybody is accountable in this world. These principles also will seek education. We seek to train people to have a meaningful discussion. Also, it needs to be technology neutral. At the moment, we're looking at technologies we know today, but there's going to be new technologies developing very fast, and we need to take those into account. This discussion will require a public-private partnership. We have to do it together. And the co-creation of instruments to uphold accountability. So it's not only legislation, it can also be an index or other instruments out there, because it's moving so fast, legislation might not necessarily be the answer. And we also then have to tie that into some kind of policy framework. So I'd like to invite this global community from Asia, as we play a very specific and important role in the digital age, to be part of that discussion, help define these principles, so we can indeed have access to knowledge, but in an account manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Busemega. And finally,
I just flew in and came straight to your wonderful celebration. International Day for Universal Access to Information. You know, maybe I'll take this opportunity to kind of give you an update what we do as ambassador and also permanent representative to UNESCO, and also a little bit about UNESCO and a couple of my thoughts. UNESCO is the center, the leader for science, culture, and education. So it applies to the entire world. It's a United Nations arm or the body that handles it. But you know, I'm really happy and I'm thankful that Dr. Banerjee and his other team in New Delhi office, Dr. Eric and all the leaders with the support of Sri Lanka, many institutions including professors, ICTA, hosting this. But what Sri Lanka, we should not forget, there are so much resources and opportunities in UNESCO where we should go and get it. They probably don't have a big budget or resources to come and hand over to us, but I think we should be more proactive and ask for more things from institutions like UNESCO. I think technology side, we have two ways to tap into UNESCO. One is the education side and one also from science side. And then also, of course, UNESCO also could support you on the ethics side, the artificial intelligence, and accountability, data ownership, and rights for information and right for consumers and how these things should be structured and so on. But at the same time, Sri Lanka Embassy, we are handling France, Spain, Portugal, Monaco from the bilateral point of view, and then multilateral point of view, UNESCO and UN, WTO, and so many other 5 institutions. So when I represent Sri Lanka to this UNESCO and places like that, my past DNA comes into action because I myself is like him, coming from the IT world in the 1990s. I remember coming to Sri Lanka and India from the US, lobbying to put outsourcing centers. I was with Iridium, we put the largest satellite constellation those days, and tried to put call centers in India. And we lobbied Indian government to open the market, and now it's $85 billion business. So looking at this global trends, the American President Bill Clinton those days believed that they can keep the high-end jobs and put the low-cost jobs to other countries. But that model completely failed because everybody learned things so fast. So this is good and bad, because now we think we could have advantage Sri Lanka, but we also might not have that advantage. So therefore, developing your base much deeper and much broader in Sri Lanka aggressively is very important. Remember, Eastern Europe coming up very fast, South America, Central America coming up very fast, and Africa coming much faster than you ever think. So don't think you have much time left. So the world is flat. You should be able to take some advantages on these industry sectors, but I don't know how long it will last. So I hope you will utilize institutions like UNESCO to advance your needs and your future. As an embassy, we are also in the board of UNESCO, and also we just got elected to the newest thing coming up in UNESCO called Intangible Cultural Heritage Global Committee. So I also got elected along with China and Japan and one more country, 4 seats for Asia Pac. So it was a fantastic moment for Sri Lanka, and I think the election was a very good one. In China got 123 votes, Sri Lanka got 122 votes, we were very close. So it shows the recognition of Sri Lanka's leadership around the world with our diplomats. They lobbied heavily all over the world for our election and our vision, what we want to lead, how we want to lead UNESCO. So talking about UNESCO, one more thing. Remember in Asia, last 9 years, we probably had 900 million people coming out of poverty to the middle class, which is a huge economic jolt. But on the other hand, UNESCO crying about every year about a $500 million budget with 194 member countries. So there's something wrong somewhere, because Harvard University has $179 billion bank account. And how come these 194 countries have failed to fund UNESCO? So now there's a different leadership in UNESCO. Recently there was a new Director General from France taking over the new direction. So we as new ambassadors, as young ambassadors, we are also want to be disruptive ambassadors in UNESCO. We want to do much larger and bigger fundraising and have a more active role for UNESCO to play in this world. And a lot of things are coming up, and I'm very excited. I also can see Sri Lanka also, our education minister, our IT minister in charge of IT are all young and bright ministers. So I hope all this will disrupt and go to the greater future. Thank you.
Thank you. Asked by Dr. Hussain, which is of central importance to the issue of universal access. And she said we have good policies to bring our disabled citizens into full participation in society, in the economy. And yet she asked, why is it that these policies have not succeeded in effective implementation? I have been thinking about this question for some time. And one of the issues that we've been grappling with, actually, sir, we have been working in Nepal as well on this issue. And I think we have to think in terms of a broader approach to the problem rather than just laws. And I think you did hint to that, which is use assistive technologies. But assistive technologies, as I keep thinking, this device that I pull out of my pocket all the time actually has more computing power than the first computer, a K-Pro that I used back in the 1980s. This has enormous potential, right? So the question that we have been asking is, now that we've got this within reach of, let's say, 30% of our people, 40% of our people, right? Is it possible to then unleash the energies of our young people in terms of developing new apps, hackathons, mobile applications, things that can channel their creativity to solve this problem? In addition to, I'm not saying laws are not necessary. I'm not saying organizations, foundations, government departments with responsibility are not necessary. I'm saying, is it also possible to think of the digital revolution as part of the answer? If you could begin.
Actually, that's a very good point, and you have described exactly what was done in Bangladesh. So in 2010, when the education policy was introduced, which was passed, and in the last few years, there has been really a revolution in the area of digitalization in Bangladesh. We have the infrastructure, but they did exactly what you said. They had, I think under the A2I project, they had a hackathon, a creation of apps. But you know why it was not as successful as it could have been? One simple fact is they did not involve the persons that needed it.
With disabilities.
You need and with various disabilities. So just to give you an example, our Ministry of ICT, Shuchana Foundation has an MOU with them to develop some resources. And in one of the discussions, they had invited us for, every year they hold this job employment fair. And we have a really good disability policy. So therefore, every year they have one specifically employment of persons with disabilities. Now, walking around their offices where they have the event with the Deputy Minister, I had a small conversation with him about disability. And I kind of pointed out to him how some of the passageways are not really accessible on wheelchairs. Okay? And of course, that's something that they can fix, it's something concrete. But when I started talking about autism, and he asked me what would be an accessibility for autism, I said, they cannot really come to the center, so to speak. They have communication difficulties. And you want to reach out to the most rural areas, give them job opportunities, train them, see what their skills are. How would you reach out to them? We have the infrastructure, use it to reach out to the remotest areas. And the result was, the next year, they not only had much higher numbers of persons with disabilities, of all disabilities from all over Bangladesh, but they had a lot of applicants who were on the spectrum. So a solution that was sort of suggested for persons on the spectrum, in fact, made it possible for everybody. And what that has done is now they have created a platform for anybody to use, not just persons with disabilities, anybody living in remote areas, to apply for jobs, to enjoy skill-based training so that they can get IT jobs. So you have to involve persons with disabilities to figure out the solution.
Thank you. Ms. Shuna, you also talked about the library system in the Maldives being open to taking active measures to make universal access a reality also for the visually impaired, the hearing impaired, and so on. Would you like to add to this about how technology can be used?
Yeah, we are trying to make a written document to pass regarding to the access. The thing is, through the government, we need to find a real platform to pass the bill.
Thank you. Fritz, Mr. Busamaker, I was planning to ask you about accountability for the information that we require, that is the lifeblood of a democratic society. But I'm going to actually ask you a different question. Maybe we'll come back to that. You talked about algorithms. You talked about algorithms. And you talked about accountability in relation to algorithms. Because as you may have heard, the people who are conducting this business had certain phrases: artificial intelligence, data analytics, Internet of Things. They kept reciting them over and over again. So I almost feel obliged that we had to touch some of these high technology issues. And you came close by talking about algorithms. How do we make the companies that are rolling out, deploying algorithms accountable? Who is going to hold them accountable?
Ooh, that's a very big question. Thank you for that. I think it all starts at this stage we're in at the world is to acknowledge that there's this need for accountability, that we acknowledge that when there is an algorithm out there, somebody needs to check if it's working or not. I've experienced too often in situations where somebody who does not have an IT background assumes that they know what they're talking about, unfortunately. I've seen doctors talking about an electronic patient information system without ever having programmed themselves, making assumptions on an erroneous basis. So first of all, it's understanding what's behind it. It's understanding, let me give you an example. We're seeing a world where driverless cars are entering society. Maybe in 5 or 10 years' time, we'll see a lot of driverless cars. Now, there's an algorithm behind that. And the thought process you have to then go through is that algorithm, when you buy a car as a user, is that programmed to, when there's a potential accident to take place, is programmed to go for the absolute minimum amount of casualties, or is it there to programmed to save the driver? Because in the first instance, the driver could be killed and you're saving four people on the road. In the other one, you're saving the driver and maybe killing 4 people. Now, I've experienced that most people aren't even aware that that's the type of question we should ask ourselves, which we put in an algorithm. So we put a lot of faith in that. So the very first step is realizing there are people behind these algorithms which made a decision how to program it.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up to the floor in a few minutes. One more round and we'll come back. Yeah. Buddhi, would you like to add to this? You come from the IT world, you talked about ethics. What is the role that UNESCO has, governments have?
Actually, UNESCO is expanding and trying to include more civil society into UNESCO, because we normally ambassadors are not the best one to provide all the information. So the technology world has grown so much. So the UNESCO is open to civil society organizations where they come in as observer, present these concepts, question things and guide us, lobby us. So this is the year that really started in a very big way. So I think having this openness will benefit the world because when we set up the frameworks for those things.
Our colleagues from Bhutan and Nepal, I'd like to pose a general question to you. Mr. Pokharel, in terms of, you said you're very keen about the right to information being fully implemented, being used, the citizens wanting to use it, making use of its full potential, and so on. And my question to you is, how can we use the possibilities of the digital revolution, of the technology, of the mobile phone, of the smartphones that are going throughout our societies? How can we use it to achieve your objectives, sir?
Yeah, good point. This is very technical part. Though we believe it is necessary to use technology in receiving and disclose information, that's why we are trying our best in this field. Though there is no legal provision in our ITI Act, but we are trying to establish this issue by our orders. Though there is no legal provision, I am commissioner who has a responsibility to enforce ITI Act where there is no legal provision of online service. In this situation, it is enough to say on my side, but we believe very much that it is necessary. That's why we are recommended to the government to implement open government data. That's why, yeah.
You want to join the Open Government Partnership and so on?
We have made the action plan and we give the government to implement it.
Mr. Namgyal, I've been fortunate to visit your beautiful country many times and actually having worked for the government of Bhutan as well. So I realize what you're saying, the difficulties of terrain and population distribution and so on. Now, as I was listening to you, I was thinking, free Wi-Fi is being promised, subsidies are being given for the rollout of the networks and so on. How sustainable is this going to be if the taxpayers are going to be paying for all this over time? Do you think there's some kind of danger lurking there in the subsidization policies? It's on, I believe.
Thank you for the question. That is one area where I have been thinking a lot. How can it be made sustainable? As far as this connectivity is concerned, the Wi-Fi, the fiber optics running to the geogs, the smallest unit of administration in Bhutan, I think we have come out with a mechanism where we annually pay around 50 million to PPC because all our fibers runs on their elected posts. So they look after the maintenance. So that part is not much because we pay 50 million, then when the fiber life is out, they will replace the fiber. So that is the mechanism that we have worked out as far as fiber. On the Wi-Fi part, yes, we were also very much concerned because this came out of nowhere when the political parties in their manifestos and in their campaign, they have said that free Wi-Fi hotspots will be provided. Then, of course, through some, we tried to ask them to elaborate, and they said that all Bhutanese domain .bt would be provided free access. I think that is something that we can do because initially the cost of building is normally high, but I think since our fibers have already reached the lowest administrative block, I think from there going to the villages and using the radio technology, I think is not much of a problem. And in fact, even the last government, they said that they will work on providing free Wi-Fi hotspots to the citizens. I think this is one way of telling that enhancing the rights of the citizen to information and services and citizen empowerment, which we are working on. Though we are a very young democratic country, democracy came in only in 2008. So this is the third tries with the elected government. So I hope that everything will be fine. And as far as concerned, I think this sustainability is not an issue. Providing services to citizens is in the core of the heart of the government, every government that comes. So I think we can